And thank you so much for coming in January. I can't believe we've got such a good turnout. I think this is probably the most people I've seen at a patient meeting. And we were having visions of just one person or none at all. Yeah. So yeah, this is really nice. Really nice to see. Graham will be pleased. So the first bit of the meeting, we'll do a bit about gardening with aspergillosis, because with the books that Graham brings down, when we had them on the coffee table before, the gardening one was the one that everyone was gravitating towards. So just a show of hands, like how many people do a bit of gardening? Oh, okay, so yeah. So just before I get started, I just want to say all the stuff that I mention in this, it's not like commandments of what you must all do all the time. It's just sort of some ideas for things that you could try out to make gardening a bit more easy and a bit more pleasant. I don't know how familiar you are with this graph at all. It's the different kinds of aspergillosis you can get versus what's happening in the immune system. So depending on what your diagnosis is, so somebody that's got ABPA or asthma, their problem is the immune response is too high, and somebody with aspergilloma or the invasive ones, it's because your immune's too low. And either way, what you want to avoid in your gardening is fungal spores, pollen, and smoke and dust. And if you've got other
It just keeps doing that.
Okay. And if you've got any other lung conditions as well, like asthma, COPD, bronchiectasis, which I think most people have got a selection really, unfortunately. It's really, really important to stop anything going in your lungs, because even if it's something quite inert like smoke or dust, it can really set you off. So one thing you can do to, like from the point of view of protecting yourself, is you can wear a mask. And I think we talked about this briefly in a previous one, and people weren't keen because they get like hot and you just get a disgusting wet face.
Also, like, what would the neighbours think?
Well, if you get one of those like CSI white suits as well, you could have a good laugh.
Like my neighbour to death actually got popped up. I was wearing it.
Actually, my dad accidentally did that to me once because he decided to paint my windows on my house, but I didn't know it was happening. And I came downstairs and there was somebody in the white suit with a mask on, looking in my window, and I nearly had heart failure.
Scream too.
Just like your brain goes, something is wrong.
And the goggles, because my eyes
Yeah,
are very sensitive.
Actually, that's a good point, and I've not put the goggles up here. So if anybody would like to give masks another go, you can get ones, if you look for ones with a valve. So I've tried these out because I've got like a glass engraving tool and you have to wear a mask for that. And actually the ones that have got a valve in, it makes a huge difference. You don't get so uncomfortable. And when you go in the shop, there's about 100 different types of masks, and you kind of think, oh, which one do I need? So it's a HEPA mask. The N95, all the number stands for, is a 0.3 micron particles. It's how much percent it's taking out. So 95 is it takes out 95% of them. 99 would be takes out 99%.
Yeah.
But when exactly that. But when you look at, so this is all to scale. So like if this is the mesh, these are the particles that number's about. And look how big pollen is compared to that. It's not getting through. So N95, N99, pollen, it's not going to make a blind bit of difference. And Aspergillus spores, they are a lot smaller than pollen, but even still, then, it does. The upshot is, if you want to try out a disposable mask, the valve's important, but the N number, not massively. Unless you can be standing over a bonfire or something, which, please don't. Any number. And if you want to go for a slightly better one, it's the FFP. It's a bit more robust. So if you really just cannot really tolerate wearing a mask to do gardening. Another thing you can do is reduce the exposure to airborne, so like everything coming in over the fence. So if you've got sort of a pollen allergy, has anyone got pollen allergies? Do you know what it is specifically you're allergic to? Is it trees or grass or everything?
Probably most pollens.
Okay, yeah. Oh well, so yeah.
Pollens and furry animals.
Yeah. So March to September, you kind of.
Timothy grass.
Yeah. So that's like a bit later in the summer. Whereas like trees come earlier, like spring, and then grass comes a bit later, and then weeds can really be.
Yeah, they're all big out.
Yeah, this is true. Yeah. Which is another good point. Like if you know where, or like you get these little pockets of sort of scrubland in between houses and stuff. If you know there's a patch of something that you don't agree with, it's maybe there'll be a different way to walk around. But also spores, you might, if you already know this, sorry if I'm teaching you to suck eggs, but I don't know who knows or not. Spores also have a bit of a seasonality. So June to September is pretty bad for spores. So if you're trying to sort of work around that in your gardening, maybe you could think about like plan out the garden so that it's nicest in winter and early spring. Like plant choice, you can maybe have a bit of flexibility that way, or something that sort of takes care of itself in summer and the work is being done in the off season. This is just a few general points. Just sort of planning how you're gonna where you're going to put plants. So if you're going to plant something like a tree that is probably going to shed pollen, the further away from the house it is, the better, or preferably maybe choose something different. There's different kinds of antihistamines. I hadn't actually heard of fexofenadine. So like if there's one, depending on sort of which ones you can take or can't take, because I know a lot of people are on drugs that will interact with, say, cetirizine, I think has some interactions with other medication, but you might be able to find a different one.
I think fexofenadine might be prescription only.
That'd be why I didn't hear
So
of it.
I mean, it changes all the time, but I don't think the share label over the counter.
Okay, that makes sense. And just general stuff like keep everything sort of trim, tidy, and keep the windows closed. Definitely look out if it's a hot, dry, windy day. That's when you want to be indoors with the window closed, and if it's a kind of a bit of a warm day, it'll have less effect on you if you go outside. This is something that you can find a lot of online. It's called allergy-free gardening. So depending on what plants you've got in your garden, you can do a bit of an inventory and see whether so something like holly or busy lizzies, they're really good. They don't produce a lot of pollen, whereas like a sycamore tree or a goldenrod, they're dreadful. So if you're getting wheezy in the garden and you've got goldenrod, pull it all out. And you can there's huge lists of these things online. And in fact, in Graham's book, there's quite a lot of this kind of information. So like if you want to look stuff up, we can help with that. And just some fun facts, there is actually a plant called sneezeweed. That's one of the most polleny ones there is.
So I presume that goes least allergy on the left, middling in the middle, and worst on the right.
Yes, yeah. And obviously, male trees, loads of pollen, female trees.
The tree one's tricky, isn't it? Because
there's not that
you
many.
haven't got much choice typically about getting rid of them. Certainly I've worked in places where you're surrounded by trees, a health centre or whatever, often planted up with a bit of landscaping, and you find that during the day, or certainly I did, I get worse and worse. And I think it's very much due to tree pollen. But as I say, there's not a lot we can do with it. Putting them up is probably not an option.
And especially if you're like somebody who's renting, and sort of the third and final angle of attack for the problems is reducing direct contact with things that have got pollen and spores in. So some of it's fairly obvious, you'll already know this. So piles of leaves, but also things like if you've got an apple tree, make sure all the apples are picked up before they get that bad. Or if you've got a plant it's alive but it's got some horrible disease,
I've seen
definitely.
the wine song.
Yeah, but yeah, just sort of generally keeping an eye on stuff. Make sure there's nowhere in the garden where something can be building up. And the other one is if you're being very good and getting some fresh air and exercise. If you've got, does anyone have a dog that they walk?
We had a dog, and you wouldn't ask what it had been rolling in.
It wasn't sweetness and light.
She used to roll in all sorts of stuff. She once rolled in a dead head jog.
Oh,
That
no.
was interesting.
Yeah, I can't judge because I've got cats, and a week ago one of them got in my bed at 4 o'clock in the morning, threw up, and then the other one got in and tried to eat it, and then the first one got angry, and then they had a fight, and I got scratched in my at 4 o'clock in the morning. So, yeah, pets.
My head jog story's not that good then.
Hedgehog wins, that is. Yeah, so just generally like make sure they're brushed, and also you can get this special kind of a grooming tool called a Furminator, and it gets some of the under layer of fur out as well, so just less is going to stick to the dog. And these are amazing. I've got one for the cat. You won't believe how much comes off them. It's amazing.
Is it a vacuum or something?
Oh no, so this one.
Yeah,
Oh no, it's a brush.
it's just a thin.
It's bigger than life size. Yeah, so that's like a little, like a double
Fine, too.
comb. Yeah, and just so less is going to stick on them, and yeah, just like white bed boards when they come in and wash the bed and stuff. Or like if you've got a visitor that's going to pop in on the way or something. If it's the middle of tree pollen season, you could say maybe can you leave the dog at home, or yeah. So the big thing that everybody should be careful with, whether they're ill or not, compost, bags of compost. I'm not suggesting it's common that a healthy person can have a problem, but it has on occasion happened. There was some poor guy who opened a big bag of compost and got invasive aspergillosis and died. But when you open compost, you can smell, even when it's not giving you a problem, you can smell that it's got mold spores in. So just generally, like if you know you're going to react to it or not react enough, just sort of little things like kind of open it away from yourself in a well-ventilated outside, or if you can get somebody else to open it for you. Yeah, and sort of like just buy what you need, because if you have like one of these big things, it can build up the mold. So just kind of keep it in smaller bags, and you should be fine. Just be very careful. Also, fun fact. So yeah, we had a plastic one this year because that's disgusting. And this is just a summary of the point. The other important thing to say is, please don't worry too much about this stuff. This is just little ways of, if you've got a problem, how can you kind of work around it? Because getting outside is very, very important, because for the exercise and vitamin D and just meeting people and being out and about.
So where does vitamin D fit into it?
So you can make it from your skin being outside in the sun. You can also get it from things like food like eggs, I think spinach, but eggs is definitely got
Oily fish, basically.
oily fish. That's right, yeah. But most of it does come from being outside in the sunshine. And yeah, we really need it, because if we don't, it's actually thought that most adults in the UK over winter have mild vitamin D deficiency, and the government recommends us to take supplements. But yeah, it can make you really poorly if you get very low on vitamin D.
Yeah, is it between September and March?
Yeah,
They say
yeah,
take a
that's
supplement.
the worst. And for people who are inside a lot, or who have office jobs or anything like that, it's worse. I've had vitamin D deficiency a few times because I'm an office person. So
I
Yeah.
take it all the year round.
Yeah,
I take
yeah.
once a month 'cause
me
mine's
too.
really, really low.
Yeah.
I read somewhere that if you live north of Birmingham,
Mm.
statistically you're going to be in a much, because they don't, get so much sun up here.
Yeah, that's right.
Actually, I used to work in Birmingham. They showed us the data for Birmingham for who was deficient or okay. So 1 person in 4 had enough.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And 1
Did that
person.
take into ethnicity? I'm just
I
thinking
don't think they
there's a lot of
correlate.
Muslims in Birmingham.
Yeah,
They didn't.
No,
what
it-
they showed us, it didn't correlate it with that. But yeah,
Because overall, it
darker
does
skin will
it does
do.
make a difference. So darker
Yeah.
skin
And being
needs more
covered
sunlight.
If you're
'cause-
totally covered and
Yeah.
you've just got a slit, you're not going
Yeah.
to get an awful lot of sun.
Exactly. But then on the other side, you have very pale people who put strong sun creams on and then can't get the vitamin D, but they're doing themselves a favour because they're not, they're reducing their risk of skin cancer and burning out, that kind of thing. So that's our first section. So if you wanted a little break,
This time of year, like a lot of people have got their New Year's resolutions, and I think probably just almost everybody kind of means to do a bit more exercise. But for like people with aspergillosis, obviously it can be a lot more difficult because it's not a question of just keep going to the gym 3 nights a week. Like the cost, and a lot of gyms maybe aren't very accessible, or the staff are clueless, and it's quite off-putting. And some of the people who might be watching this later on from their own homes maybe can't actually really realistically go for a walk or get out and about, which is a shame because there's so many benefits to doing exercise, and a lot of people really want to do it. So there's this one survey I found, Parallel London, and they were looking at people with any disability, and they found that more than 4 out of 5 of them wanted to do more, but they didn't feel like they were able to. So put together a few bits and pieces to do with things that might help if anybody is finding things a bit difficult. So in terms of gyms and leisure centres, there's a thing called an IFI mark, which is this inclusive fitness, this little guy with I don't know what he's done to that barbell, but
You're yellow.
yeah. So if you look for somewhere like especially local authority leisure centres rather than like commercial gyms.
Yeah, so as far as I know, this mark is only available for the UK gyms, so for anyone listing online. But there are a few commercial gyms that also are quite inclusive, and it's getting better as we go forward. So I'm actually part of Pure Gym, and when I had my bad knee, I was registered as a disabled user, and you get to use the lift, and it's just quite nice because when people see you struggling, the staff have a bit more awareness, and they can help you, and they can help you do exercises that are a lot more suitable to your limitations or your strengths. So I have actually found that quite a good experience. But as Beth says, a local authority, they're really held to account on it. So if it was something we were thinking about, that might be the best place to start. And yeah, free day passes are brilliant always, because you might sign up to a gym and then think this really isn't for me. And by then you're sucked into a 3-month contract or whatever it is. So that'd be the way to do it.
I think it's also important to find the thing that suits you.
That's
why
right,
people
yeah.
fail often, because we do
Yeah.
something and then you don't enjoy it and you find it a chore.
Yeah, it isn't for everyone, but for some people, they are getting a bit more accessible.
Oh yeah, so just some general guidelines. There's a lot of material out there. There's a lot of different videos and websites and this, that and the other. But just general approach is just, if it doesn't feel right, like if there's like sharp pain, or if something leaves you a bit sort of breathless or feeling unwell, then just don't do it. Like really just pay attention to how it's making you feel. And if it's making you feel bad, just don't. If people get on quite well with this sort of thing and want to know a bit more about it, we could even get what's the physio's guy name? Phil. We could get him to kind of do something a bit more sort of targeted and
He's
approved.
Mm.
But just take it steady. Don't worry about getting fancy equipment. So I've got some of these at home that my sister gave me, and they make Pilates very effective. You hurt the next day. But you don't need them at all. Just anything from around the house, or like bottles with water in or something are quite good. And don't make it a way of punishing yourself. Like put a bit of music on, do something you enjoy, and if you don't enjoy one particular thing, move on to a different one. Just anything, yeah. It should be making you feel good if possible. So there's one website that's got really nice diagrams. There's seated chair exercises. So this is almost like something you might, so sort of to replace what you might try and do in a gym, that kind of thing. I wouldn't try it on these chairs. Please don't. If there's an accident, I don't want to be in trouble. So things like sort of lifting your legs, circling your arms, or lifting yourself up. With these kind of things, they look really easy, and it's all down to how many you do. So if you do 10 reps in a set, say, and then swap side, if you do that a couple of times, even just doing something like this, it does start to build up, and you can build up just. And this is actually a website. It's aimed at people with diabetes, but actually I quite like their diagrams are quite. You can see exactly what's going on, and they've got a bit more variety. And it kind of does all different parts of the body. So a lot of the resources out there, they're not specifically, like they won't be labelled aspergillosis or lung conditions. You might have to be a bit creative. So this is diabetes. There's a lot for people, say with obesity, that aren't mobile, or people in wheelchairs that can't do the standing part of things. And one thing that I've done is, if anybody would like to have a go at some exercise videos when they get home, I've actually set up a YouTube channel that's got a sort of a curated list of various things that are quite beginner friendly. So something like Tai Chi, you can get a lot of the benefits, and it's not, it's completely no impact, like zero impact on your joints. You can do it it's very slow and controlled, and very, very relaxing. Like you can do that. A lot of the videos are sort of outside in nature and things. And then if there's a lot of sports where like Zumba, you think of it as being quite on your feet bouncing around, but if you search and just put seated, actually there is a lot of people out there doing all this kind of thing, and they've made fantastic videos, and you can choose the music you like instead of, that there's so much to choose from, or mat exercises, that absolutely tons of results, or in bed or hospital exercises. There's absolutely tons out there, so you'll be able to find somebody that you like their voice.
Yeah.
It does make a difference who's doing it. And yeah, even slightly more exotic things. So there's one very gentle belly dance one, and there was one that was boxing or kickboxing, seated as well. So you can find something that doesn't feel too, because I know some people find yoga or Pilates just a bit, but find it a bit silly, don't you? So this is the link to it, and I'll put that on the Facebook. I think I've already put it on the Facebook page.
Yeah, you might have already done
that. So that's the end of the exercise bit. So this is just a thing that Graham asked me to pass on to you guys. So the Manchester Biomedical Research Centre, they're looking for some volunteers, and it's a thing to do with helping inform respiratory research, so getting patient input into how things are designed and run to make sure it's really doing what people need it to do, really. There's an information session, it's in the centre of Manchester, just behind the main library, on the 18th of January, and they're looking for 4 volunteers from us guys to go to that. And if you are interested, there's a survey, and I'll put that link on the Facebook group, so you can just click through. Oh, and the other thing that I was going to ask about is, so I don't know if you're aware, but this year is the 20th anniversary of the Aspergillus website, which is very exciting. So we're going to be doing a bit
How
of...
did that time go? Plenty of them. Are you doing anything special?
So one thing that we're going to be doing is some interviews with the consultants, the researchers and the patients, and putting together sort of a bundle with everybody sort of telling the same sort of what it means to them, how they use the resources, just sort of what difference it makes to people. So we're looking for some volunteers to be interviewed on video. If anybody would like to, obviously not today. We're not going to spring it on you, but have a think.
Do we want to maybe do Chris's notice?
Oh yeah. So we were going to ask you about your filming yesterday.
Yes,
Oh.
so all I was going to do was just tell everybody that yesterday a Danish film crew came in and interviewed 3 of our patients, and one of them is the star today. So thank you for coming yesterday, Malcolm, and I can't apologise enough for keeping you around so long.
That's
You were
okay.
very patient.
Film star.
Yeah,
So,
Only on Danish
it was
television.
meant to be done, with such precision, but unfortunately, as all these film people, they come with a plan and then it all goes completely wrong, doesn't it?
Okay, so we've just for the last part, we've got a short section on alternative and complementary therapies. So this is a topic I'm really interested in. When I worked at Cancer Research UK, we got lots of questions about alternative therapies that people had heard of and whether they might be appropriate for them. And it did cause a lot of problems sometimes, but also some people find them quite helpful. So hopefully we'll talk through some of the issues and some of the benefits today. So the first thing that's really important to mention is there is a difference, although people use those terms interchangeably. Alternative really means you're having medicine that's not evidence-based in place of modern medicine. So exchanging the two, and this can be really dangerous because for someone to decide that they're not going to continue with conventional treatment, it could be life-threatening. So that's not ever something that I or any other medical professional would advocate for. Whereas complementary medicine, what that word really means is alongside conventional medicine. And of course it has to be discussed with a doctor, but sometimes people can find complementary medicine appropriate for them as individuals. So this is data from a patient, and of course completely anonymised. Over the course of 3 weeks, the patient tracked every time they felt considerably out of breath, and they got treatment at week 0, at sort of this point. So can anyone kind of spot a pattern or see what's happening
Well, it's getting less,
there? Okay.
all the jaws.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So it seems to have a dip in the first week,
Yeah,
doesn't it?
middle.
And then have a peak, and then go down again.
Yeah.
Do you think that the medicine's working? Or?
mild response.
Okay.
Doesn't seem very well controlled if you look at anything 18s and 16s.
Yes. Yeah. So it seems to have that peak just after week 1. Any other thoughts about that sequence of numbers?
Be interested to know what they were doing at 4, 3, 5, 2.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So full disclosure, I made that up.
All right.
This is actually a random sequence of numbers. I just got it from a computer generator, and I kind of plugged them in and decided that they were going to be week 1, week 2, week 3. So hopefully you've not lost all trust in me just yet. But it's just to demonstrate how good we are as humans at picking out patterns from nonsense data, essentially. So you can imagine this could be a real person who's had this sort of variation in their symptoms and is trying to attribute it to something they've done or haven't done. And almost always it's the medicine hasn't worked or the medicine has worked. Whereas in a lot of conditions, it might have had no effect, and it's just a random variation. So this is what we like to call anecdote. So anecdotal evidence is when one person tells you about an experience that they've had, and that experience could be completely true, it could be completely false, it could be somewhere in the middle. But it's not something that in medicine we would base treating another patient on just because one thing has worked for one patient. So where do we go from here? We could look at lots and lots of different patients. So say we had hundreds of thousands of patients. Does that mean we have the information necessary? Unfortunately, even if you've got very, very big data, you can still get things correlating and things making patterns where actually there isn't a pattern, or it's reliant on a third factor. So in this case, you can see that autism seems to rise in terms of prevalence as organic food sales seem to rise. And I think we can all agree that organic food sales probably aren't causing autism. But if you replaced organic food sales with the HPV vaccine, for example, then people might start to have questions. They do seem very, very well tracked. In this case, it's probably because the popularity of organic food has gone up as we've learned more about pesticides, and that's come more into the public consciousness. And autism diagnosis has gone up as people have become more aware and maybe taken their children sooner to the doctors to see if they have, on the autistic spectrum. So that's not good enough either. So how do we solve this problem as scientists and as doctors and as people interested in the health profession? How can we know if a medicine is causing you to get better, or if it's just fluke or chance, or maybe even dependent on another factor? The way we do it is by double-blind randomized control trial, which I understand is a very wordy I think this is basically the gold standard of scientific research when we're looking to see if a medicine works or not. So I'm going to break it down by what each of those words really means. So randomized means we've got a huge group of people, and instead of putting them in 1 and 2 group by, for example, male or female, or splitting them by age, we're going to just assign them randomly to 2 groups so that we know that there's no inherent difference between those groups. It's completely random separation. And then one group will get what's called a control. So they'll get a medicine that essentially looks the same as the real medicine, but inside will be chalk or something innate that's not going to do anything. And the other group actually gets the medicine. So that group gets the thing that we're hoping will treat the condition that all these people have. The important thing is that the patients don't know if they've got the treatment or not, because then they can't decide, oh, I have the treatment, so that probably means that I've been feeling a bit easier and maybe I've been getting better. And the other thing is we call it a double blind. So not only is the patient blind to which medicine is which, but actually the researchers and doctors are also blind to which, not literally, blind to which medicine is which. So nobody knows, apart from the grad student who's probably behind all this and writing the numbers 1 and 2 on the envelopes, which medicine is the right medicine. So really, if there is a difference, the only thing that can be the difference is the medicine. So it's really taking out all those extra variables. And this is like your end game, really. And in fact, as I said, it's at the very end of a very large process. So there's a lot of detail on there, but essentially it's a 10 to 15 year process to get a drug from first discovering it all the way through. It can be longer in some cases, depending on what phases are necessary. And this is really a very overly simplified diagram. There's lots of different stages in each of these stages. Tissue sampling, animal testing, and it's got to go through regulators and ethical bodies to make sure that we might be able to test this on humans, because of course at phase 2 you've got to actually put it into real human bodies, and that involves quite a lot of responsibility. Then through to a selected group of ill patients, then to test if it would be a good treatment. So not only does it have to be effective, but it has to be effective enough to actually make a difference to the patient. And then through the licensing, and then through NHS appraisal, which of course involves if the medicine is cost effective or not to the NHS as an organisation. So it's a huge process. Alternative therapies don't have to go through any of that. They only need someone to put something in a bottle and So if we know all that, why is it that people use alternative medicine? Bit of a boring slide. I couldn't think of any other way to put this. To avoid side effects is one of the main causes we hear people talking about. Often they're avoiding side effects because the substance that they're taking isn't doing anything else. So in the case of homeopathy, that's essentially water with a very, very tiny component. Yeah. Right, yeah. Exactly, yeah. I mean, that is a huge problem with this, is that it only drains.
You know, it almost goes without saying that if something produces side effects, it has an action of some kind.
Right, yeah.
And if it's going to treat a condition, it needs to have an action of some kind. So it is extremely unlikely you're going to separate an active compound, or discover an active compound that only does the very thing you want it to do without any other effects.
I mean, if that was available, that would be brilliant, wouldn't it? But often there's more effects than the therapeutic one. So, you know, often people do get frustrated with modern medicine. It's slow. The drugs come out as slow, and sometimes it doesn't work in the way that we want it to work, or it only works partially. And that's why you hear things like, "I want to try everything before I give up," or "I've tried everything." People want to get better, and people aren't stupid. They're just really motivated to get better, which is a good thing. And you know, if then you hear of a trusted friend or maybe a celebrity personality who's taken this and it's seemingly had a good effect on them.
Newspaper article.
Right,
There was
exactly.
one yesterday, and I think it's Daily Mail, about a woman who got better from taking curcumin
Yeah.
tablets.
Right.
She had blood cancer. She'd had several courses of chemotherapy.
Yeah.
And then she took curcumin tablets for 10 days, £50,
Mhm.
and she's now recovered.
Yeah.
She was interviewed on the radio.
Oh,
So-
did you hear it? I never heard of it.
Yeah.
That's a perfect example
Lot
of
of
an anecdote that just spirals out of control, whereas there's all those people who have actually gone through chemo and
Magical.
Apparently, it's a miracle, cure everything.
You think
well, that's
soup
actually a
is
really key
magical.
thing that you mentioned there, because most of these alternative therapies, you ask what they're for, and it's for everything. Which, you know, it should ring alarm bells really, but actually it's a way to sell that, because the more people it's applicable to,
It's
the
expensive as well.
Yeah.
10 days, £50.
Yeah, exactly.
8 grams a
Yeah.
day.
That's why it's big business.
Exactly, and it is a big business.
And it costs very little to make.
Exactly.
Pharmacists-
Would you like to come up here, sir? So it's very cheap. It's unregulated. It doesn't go through a
It's not what
testing
you do,
process.
is
Yeah, don't be getting business ideas, guys. From
Mind
this. Yeah. And we actually suspect that one of the reasons that alternative medicine is taking off so much, apart from the media interest in it, is that if you live in a country that doesn't have national health care, then alternative medicine is the cheaper treatment. So you want to believe that that works the best because, you know, you want to be able to afford some sort of treatment. So yeah, it's much more of a complicated issue. But this is just to illustrate that there's lots of different types of alternative medicine. Some of them are more harmful than others. Some of them are safe, but if you're taking them in replacement of medicine that's actually going to help you, then it's not safe really by direct action. So if we mentioned homeopathy, probably doesn't do anything bad if you're actually using actual homeopathy, but it certainly won't do anything good, apart from hydrolyte maybe. Naturopathy is just a name for medicine that encompasses lots of different alternative or complementary therapies. Acupuncture, where they use needles, and that's supposed to balance your energy. For all of these, there aren't, well, meditation and faith slightly, but for most of these, there isn't evidence to back them up. We'll get onto how that would change when they become complementary therapies, because actually some of these, when they're used as complementary therapies, can be very helpful to the individual, but certainly not on their own. Okay, so this is a real bugbear of mine. Natural doesn't necessarily equal safe. And when I say it like that, you know, everyone can think of poisonous mushrooms and venomous snakes and etc., etc. But what about apricots? These capsules are produced and they're called apricot kernel extract capsules. And up until quite recently, you could buy these in the UK legally, and you could, you know, ingest them as a human being. And this, I was just okay. I had a bit of a Google, and it's quite an interesting story. So this company called Well Good, in Nature We Trust, says this about apricot kernels on its website. One of the greatest seeds of nature, particularly as they contain the world's richest source of vitamin B17. They also have the benefit of being an excellent source of good unsaturated fats that can protect your heart and overall health. They're loaded with essential minerals, protein, enzymes, and fibre. So that, if we weren't well informed, would sound pretty decent, wouldn't it? I mean,
left side off of this.
yeah. Vitamin B17, I haven't heard of it, but I know you're supposed to get your vitamin and minerals, so that sounds good. And I know that it's important to protect our heart and eat the right combination of fats. I know minerals, protein, enzymes, and fibre are all important things in biology. So, if I wasn't looking up at this subject in particular, you might read that and as a sensible person think, yeah, this sounds like something that could really help me. Yeah, there is a bit of a red flag, however, a little bit lower down the webpage where it says, to stay compliant with the new legislation, we can only serve our organic bitter apricot kernel capsules as a pet supplement. The label is now changed for pets, but it's exactly the same formula as before the change of law. The popularity of this product has not been affected by this label change. So that's quite a cheeky way of saying, still take it, guys. They haven't actually broken any laws by writing that paragraph. They're saying that it's for pets and that the popularity hasn't changed. They're not saying that means that humans are still taking it. But we all know that's what they're implying. Vitamin B17 is not an actual vitamin. It's a name that this particular company has adopted, and I wish I couldn't remember the name of the precursor, for a name of another chemical compound. And that chemical compound, when metabolized in the human body, when it goes into the human body and we deal with it as humans, becomes cyanide. So you will get cyanide poisoning from taking too many of these capsules. And so will your pets, as far from anything. And people have died from having apricot kernel extract. So,
never buy anything off the internet.
right.
Well, yeah, and this whole problem has become a lot worse because of the internet, unfortunately.
Yes, exactly. And it's something we fight against all the time.
Yeah.
Because how is a normal person, after reading that first paragraph, supposed to know that this is a really dangerous product?
People are so trusted, they
Yes.
just buy it all. It's not even I just
Well,
be
and if they're
so-
desperate,
Exactly, yeah.
Well, I
And that's the
just
thing, I'm not
don't
calling
understand.
people stupid at all, because in general people aren't. People have common sense, but you could have common sense and read that first paragraph and think, yeah,
I believe
actually,
it, that's
that's
right. I mean, that's what I mean. It's just because I don't.
Yeah. Some things can be helpful alongside medicine as long as you discuss them with your doctor first. And some things can be not helpful that you think wouldn't have any action. So for example, magnets. Some people wear magnetic bracelets or even have magnets implanted in the tissue of their fingers to try and address some sort of energy imbalance. That's the idea. But if you want to go for an MRI scan in the future and you have a magnet implanted in your finger,
You're a nightmare.
you'll lose it very quickly. And also very strong magnets have been known to interfere with pacemakers in people's hearts. So sometimes something quite inert or that seems quite safe can actually be unsafe, which is why we always advise people to talk to the doctor before they engage in anything.